We're back here on First Up, the First Stop in your busy day, and this is the point in the show where we get some investment advice for free from the Unit Trust Corporation. Joining us on set again is Justin Silva. He's the Manager of Treasury at UTC, and we also have a new member of the UTC executive team joining us today, Karen Guyadeen-Gosine. She is the Assistant Vice President for Investment Management Services at the UTC. So now we get a chance to pick their brains and find out how best to utilize our money. Thanks for joining us on set.
Morning. Thank you for having us.
Okay, so let's look at how things have been looking. We've already finished the first quarter, more or less, of 2011.
Correct.
So how has the market looked during the first quarter, and possibly, if you can, the last quarter of 2010 moving into 2011? How have things looked?
Sure, thanks. Well, actually, I just want to take the opportunity to say good morning to our unit holders and investors. How we actually want to conduct this morning, we're just continuing from the last time, is more or less get into the thick of things. I would like our investors to understand that when you make financial and investment decisions, a lot of these decisions are based upon the factors which impact the ability to generate wealth. So I'm going to spend some time speaking to the economy of the world and the country to some extent, and Karen is going to speak to how our investors could capture these opportunities that present themselves through the economy. So let's speak a little bit about 2011 and 2010. 2011 more or less continued in the same vein as 2010 ended. We saw the emerging markets basically dominating the growth in the world. The growth in the world was basically driven by these growth in the emerging markets, this being China, South Africa, Brazil, India. We continue to see the developed economies of the world, North America in particular. They're on the cusp of recovery. However, it's very still rather fragile. In the first quarter, we actually saw some corporates, especially financial houses, repay money which was borrowed from the government, bailout money, and actually pay dividends for the first time. So that's good news for Wall Street. But there remains a disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street. Main Street being the average person on the street. There's still elevated levels of employment. The labor market hasn't really taken off, even though we've seen some improvement. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, one of the more revered rating houses, one of revered rating agencies, Standard & Poor's, actually downgraded their long-term outlook of the United States economy. Not so much to do with their prevailing economic factors, but to do with their long-term, their ability to deal with their current fiscal and debt situation. A lot of this actually depends on the powers that be, their current ability to come to bipartisan agreement on budget cuts, spending cuts, as well as tax increases, which will more or less assist with their ability to deal with their debt burden. So for those of us who have North American exposure, or maybe looking to take North American exposure, this is something that we will continue to look at in great interest at the Unit Trust Corporation, and also we advise our investors to monitor with great interest.
In terms of the fact that you said these established economies, the superpowers, so to speak, like the US, the UK, some of the European countries had taken hits economically.
Correct.
We're also seeing some growth in terms of China, South Africa, Brazil, and India. So it's not a global gloom and doom. There are some bright spots in terms of global economy, which also impacts directly to Trinidad and Tobago.
Correctly, and behind every gray cloud there's a silver lining. I'll ask Karen to come in anytime that she feels ready to make a statement. Because, for example, I just wanted to outline the Middle Eastern crisis, which is another factor which has impacted the first quarter of 2011 in a serious manner. Even though people do see this as geopolitical turmoil as very unfortunate, there are benefits, well, not benefits, but there are silver linings to it. And of course, one item of that has been the price of oil. They have the turmoil which we have seen in Egypt, Libya, has raised supply-side concerns with respect to oil. We've seen oil increase in the first quarter of 2011 some 20% almost, and this actually has, of course, great benefits for Trinidad and Tobago being a producer of oil. Of course, the downside of